we are young. Leave out your head as we take on the wall. We are one, we are all family. Though tough times come, I will not waver. We will rise and be conquering new ground. We will stand up and rise together. We will march into victory. Hold my hand and they say we know. I do I, it's for you as it has been for me. Open your heart and know this in your soul. Our hopes, our dreams are the same. My wife and you, I will finish this race. Not alone, by myself, but with you. Though tough times come, I will not waver. We will rise and be conquering new ground. We will stand up and rise together. We will march into victory. Hold my hand and they say we know. I do I, it's for you as it has been for me. Everyone shine, everyone shine. All of us get for a reason, for a greater design. We will stand up and rise together. We will march into victory. Hold my hand and they say we know. I is for you as it has been for me. We will stand up and rise together. We will march into victory. Hold my hand and they say we know. I is for you as it has been for me.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session with yours truly, Dante Azarmi. I have a really important topic to discuss with you guys today, and that is organizational culture. It is a very important topic, and a lot of people tend to think that it is unreachable, it is magical, it's something that you can't really touch or anything like that. But today I want to dissect it in a very scientific way, show you how you can measure company culture. I know, right? And at the same time, tell you how you can make your company culture better. Because if you have a good organizational culture, you will be able to produce so much more and have so much more potential in your organization. All right. So that being said, let's get into it. All righty. So how company culture shapes motivation. All right, let's open it up. Now, businesses believe that a strong organizational culture can actually be very critical for success. But at the same time, they also think that organizational culture is some kind of a magical force that, you don't have to any, chance in doing or changing it. But at the same time, it's very important. Now, I'm going to give you 3 very important questions that you can use to analyze your organizational culture, starting with how does the culture drive performance and what is the culture worth, all right? And what processes in your organization, affect culture. So that being said, let's jump into how does culture drive performance. Now, Professor Edward Deci and Richard Ryan from the University of Rochester distinguished, 6 reasons why people work, which is very important. These are going to be very key. So if you do see it and pay attention, make sure you put a number 2 in there. Now, benefits and some things that can hurt it. So these 6 are divided into 2. Let's start with the benefits. Let's start with the positive. Now, play, purpose, and potential are very important aspects of any job that we have. Play is basically our instinct of exploration, our need to experiment, and our curiosity. So it when you are good in terms of play, that basically means that you enjoy your job, the actual job that you're doing, the activity you are enjoying it. And the other one would be purpose, meaning that the outcome of your job, the value that you create in other people's life or your own or anything else that your job entails, that value impacts your identity and you love it because that is something that you enjoy doing. Now potential is basically when your the job that you have gives your identity certain benefits in the long run. When you are actually working, it enhances your potential, and the rank that you have. Now, that being said, now we're going to jump into what hurts the performance, right? Now, emotional pressure is one thing, being pressured, peer pressure, fear, compulsion, a shame, or like, all these different things, or making you, think in a way that you need to make someone happy in that job. It's not you that's needed to be happy. It's basically someone else that needs to be happy. That is emotional pressure. All right. Economic pressure, on the other hand, is basically a reward and punishment kind of thing, which you are there because you are looking for a reward or to avoid certain punishment. Basically, in terms of economic, you're there for monetary reasons and for you to not be able to have issues in terms of financial reasons. All right. Now, inertia is worse than all of those. It basically means that you don't know why you're there and why you're working. You're just there in a dead end job and you're sitting down and everything feels like you literally don't know why you're there. Why am I working here? I'm not very satisfied, right? That is bad, right? So we are going to check out how we can increase the beneficial side and decrease the part that hurts it. Now, just to make sure that you guys know that this was a very, very important experiment. This was done between 20,000 workers globally and 50 major companies. So it's a very reputable experiment. So going forward, Tomo. What is Tomo? I don't know if anybody have heard it. If you have heard Tomo, put a number 2 in the comment section. If you haven't, put a number 1. All right. So total motivation is basically how the metric for organizational culture. Now, what is culture work? Creating a business, point for culture isn't impossible. Of course, it is impossible if you want to measure creativity, proactivity, or resilience at the actual moment. But for you to calculate, total motivation, that's not too hard, right? Now, we're just going to check into some 2 experiments that I have here. One is conducted by Teresa Mbal, which is from Harvard. And what she do was basically give a few poets to do a poetry about laughter. Now, group number 1 was given, reasons for play, which is like, oh, you enjoy doing poetry or expressing yourself. You enjoy playing with words. Now, group B was actually given, oh, you need to impress your lecturer. You need to write for a bestseller novel, which you think is going to financially secure you. Now, it is without a say that the group number 1 or group A were deemed 26% more creative. And it's because they had motivation to work. Because given the play, they were enjoying the work. So they were literally sitting down and being like, okay, I'm going to write this poetry. I'm going to do it. And they loved the rhymes, kept coming, and everything was going well. The other ones were like, what can I write that the other person would like? It's not your creativity. Now you're writing for them. All right, so that's one thing. Now, another experiment was done with ACSI University of Michigan, which calculated employee TOMO between 4 airlines, right? Between United, American, and Delta, and as well as Southwest. Southwest being on the top. Now, the employee TOMO of these 4 airlines was basically like, analyzed to find out the outcome such as like, customer satisfaction. Now, here's the fun part. The impact was not limited to the customer satisfaction, but because Southwest Airlines actually had more of a play and purpose involved in, the economic side and the pressure side and things like that. Because as you see some videos online with airlines coming up, instead of doing the usual, stuff that they do like songs, they rap it out. And these are, the leeway or like the space that this organization has allowed the employees to experiment, to see how they can create value in people's life, to see that they are actually creating laughter, enjoyment, safety in the other people's lives. And that increased their likelihood of being more customer friendly, being more happy with their job. And exactly because of that positivity, their level of customer satisfaction increased because they're enjoying their job and they enjoy interacting with the customers, while as the other groups might just be there because they're pressured, they're down. And once you're down, how can you communicate with someone else? You're literally in yourself, in your own mind, trying to figure out what's going on with you, instead of being able to put all of yours into providing the best customer care. Now, it is without saying that by measuring tomo, you can realize that play, purpose, and potential. And if you have more of play, purpose, and potential, you will literally and have less emotional pressure, economic pressure, and inertia. You'll have more customer satisfaction. You'll have a better outcome, right? Now, the difference between low tomo and high tomo sales associates was literally 30% of the revenue. So if your organizational culture has high tomo, which is high total motivation, you are going to even produce that level of difference between another company that is having low tomo. All right. So that is very, very important for you guys to realize. Now, we come to the next one. What processes in an organization defines culture? So let's dissect now. Let's find out what are these processes that dictate how your tomo levels increase or decrease. But before that, I want to tell you guys, I want to define to you guys this organizational culture, which is a set of processes in an organization that affect the total motivation of its people. All right, so that's very important. Keep that in mind. As much as we say leadership is very important, now we're going to dive into this graph. Before we do, I want to tell you guys a little bit about the graph. The graph, the x-axis that you see between minus 100 to until 100 is going to be your total motivation. What you see on the company process side, which is role design, organizational identity, career, leading all the way down to leadership and performance reviews, this is what is going to dictate how much of a level of tomo point that you're going to get. So for example, if you go to role design, you will see that in this axis you have 87 points. Now, meaning that if a poorly designed role of tomo, if it can actually go to scoring minus 40 points in your total motivation, that is really bad. And at the same time, if you have really good tomo, it can actually increase it to 50. All right. And of course, the accumulation of all of this is the points that you get for your total motivation. Now, here's the cool part. The most admired cultures like Google and all these awesome companies with really cool cultures that people want to work in, or like Funko Pop or anything like that. These have been seen to tend to have 15 more points higher tomo than other peers in their same industry. Right? So it's super important for you. And if you can see there, leadership in this case is not actually as important as role design. All right. So understanding a role, understanding what you're supposed to do, how it affects you is superbly important. So if you are a manager out there, if you are someone that is watching this right now, and if you are starting your own business, you have to make sure that the roles you design are correctly done. Always remember that. All right. But at the same time, don't think that leadership is not important, because we live in a cultural ecosystem, right? So all of these elements are intertwined to each other and interact with each other. So in order for you to have a good organizational culture, you need to tick every box that you think. All right. And it's easy. You just have to go through it, find out what is going on, and then dissect it, and then get into fixing it. All right. And not in terms of fixing it in a very pressure. Well, we'll get into that. Don't worry about it. All right. Speaking of which, if the page loads. All right, we're going to go to the next page. 1 second. All right, we're going to wait for it to somehow. Okay, guys, 1 second. I think we're having a bit of a problem here. Let's see. No worries at all. We're going to get back very soon. All right, we're going to just do this. All right, no worries. So Let's talk about what you leaders can do. All right. So this is the important part. Now we talked about every single thing that was important, and now we're going to be talking about what you leaders can do. Now, looking at it, we realize that culture is the operating system. So the Windows or iOS of your company is basically culture. Now, what can leaders do to increase the culture and make it better, right? So holding a reflection huddle with your team once a week. Now, this should not be like a task, all right? This should be something that you will interact with your mates or like employees and things like that. So you bring them in to sit down with you and start having this discussion. Never make it a compulsory thing, because if you start making a compulsory thing, people are just going to be there to give you data that they just thought about it. They're pressuring themselves to think about it, the questions that you're going to be asked. So don't do that. Make it fun, make it engaging, make it tell them to realize that it's something for them instead of something that you will make it feel like it's for you. All right, so play. The first question: what did I learn this week? Or in this case, what did you learn this week? All right. Purpose: what impact did I have this week on the customers or the service that I provided? And the next, potential: what do I want to learn next week? All right, so what do I want to start focusing on? Ask them, find out. These are very important things for you to learn. Now, explaining the why behind the work that your team does. All right, this is super important as well, because if you give them the reason that they're working, they will have purpose. They will understand the value of what they're doing. And to you managers out there, if any of you is the type that goes to your employees and literally tells them, oh, this we're doing this because the big boss said it, you are very, very wrong in what you are doing right now. You are creating a wall between yourself, between your team and the higher management. And of course, you're creating yourself to become the villain here. Don't do that. Give them an idea of why they're doing it, and give them the idea that you also have choice, or you also have a structure in what is going on. If you constantly go and say, oh yeah, Lisa said that we have to do this, so we got to do this, and I tend to sometimes do that in my previous job as well. So, but at now we realize that this does not help in the culture, right? So stop doing that. And then instead explain, as I said, and then the other one would be considering how you have designed your team and their roles, right? So first question would be, does everyone have a space to play? As we said, this is the other kind of play, right? So this is basically the kind of play that allows people to experiment, and get into doing certain stuff, right? Explain where people, as I said, can be free to experiment. Meaning, for example, you're working in Starbucks, right? As we have it down there, you are allowed. The manager comes to you and says you're allowed to talk to these people in a good way, but you can use your own technique of approach. That allows you to understand what kind of technique it works for your customer to be happier, and at the same time, it helps you find that value in there. The next question would be, where would each member want to be in 2 years? If you can, help them out, because if you can allow them to find that path, find that what they need to do to be able to reach that full potential out there that they're looking to be in 2 years, you are literally creating purpose and potential at the same time of giving them that play. So in this culture, you literally have everything you need. So let's fix our cultures. That's what I'm saying. All right. Now, let's talk about, don't leave your country, the country, don't leave your company culture to chance. That is super important. As we said, this is science that we're talking about, and this is something that we can do to change or create a better culture and a positive culture. So don't leave it to chance. Don't just sit back and think it's a magical thing. You have to be involved in what is going on in your company, and culture is one of the most important aspects of that, right? A great company culture isn't easy to build, but at the same time, high performance cultures are so powerful and competitively advanced for any industry, that everyone should get into realizing how to do it, right? More and more organizations are beginning to realize that culture can't be left to chance, as I said. All right, organizations that build great cultures can meet the demands of a very high paced or culture that we're going to, a high-paced society that we're going to, which is very customer centric, and at the same time, We live in a digital world. All right. So it is very important for us to realize that anything that we do goes up. All right. So we need to make sure that we create a culture that resonates with everyone and starts going out, so that we can actually recruit and bring more people that love this culture, that see people that come out of this company and they're happy, right? They're friends and everything. So you're really hitting a lot of different points with just one stone, and that is culture, right? And of course, leaders must treat culture building as an engineering discipline, not as a magical one. We're not wizards here, so I wish we were. I never got my Hogwarts letter, but I really do have to point out that if you do want to have a good culture, you need to start seeing it as a very scientific factor. As we said, those 6 pointers are a good way for you to start realizing that. All right. And of course, this brings us to near the end of the part, and I want to see you guys to make sure to read the How Company Culture Shapes Employee Motivation by Neil Doshi and Lindsay McGregor. All right, so not to be mistaken with Conor McGregor, but of course read it out. It's very important, and I got a really good motivation from this, and also it really did bring me to do a really this whole presentation. So it's good for you guys to check that out. That being said, this brings us to the end of our presentation today. But before I do leave you guys, I just want to say something that probably some of you guys have watched, that Cobra Kai. I was just watching it last night, and it really gave me this good motivation. The guy was cutting a bonsai tree, right? And he asked, how can I shape this bonsai tree the way that you shape it really nicely? And the guy said, close your eyes, imagine what you want that bonsai tree to look like, and then open it and begin to cut to bring that image to life. All right, this is a metaphor. This is a metaphor for all our lives. All right, always, if you want to be somewhere, just if you want to become something really important, the most important part is for you to just take a moment, close your eyes, visualize where you want to be, and then begin to do what it needs to be done to get to that point. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this occasion with Dante Azarmi, which is me, and I'd love to see you guys again next week. Please take care, stay motivated, and don't give up, all right? Bash that comfort zone up. Cheers.
方向，谁不曾有迷惘和彷徨？
别怕失望，不会白走一趟，任何事都必须向前看。
找几个搭档，建个避风港，陪你哭，陪你笑，陪你闯荡。就算逆风拼命去抵抗，我们一定越战越强。不要害怕所谓的困难，情愿会受伤，谁甘心一辈子都平凡？难免失去方向，谁不曾有迷惘和彷徨？
别怕失望，不会白走一趟，任何事都必须向前看。
找几个搭档，建个避风港，陪你哭，陪你笑，陪你闯荡。就算逆风拼命去抵抗，我们一定越战越强。不要害怕所谓的困难，情愿会受伤，谁甘心一辈子都平凡？
迎着风霜，必须勇敢和心中的梦想，
风迎击败，
用尽力量，肩并肩大声唱，一生纵浪。
就算逆风拼命去抵抗，我们一定 战越强，不要害怕所谓的困难，情愿会受伤，谁甘心一辈子都平凡？就算你不拼命去抵抗，我们一定越战越强。